So I'm going to look at the progression test that we've been looking at over the past few weeks. Don't worry if you've missed those lessons, it doesn't matter. Every time we do a live lesson, you will learn something, okay? So don't worry about where you are in the course. This is about learning a certain concept, okay? So I've started looking at progression tests just so that you get an idea of the kind of thing that you could expect to get at some point when you write your Foundation 1 exam, because the progression tests very much, they mirror the kinds of things you would get in the exams, okay? So I'm going to, let me share my screen with you, and we're going to look at the progression test that we've been looking at already, the secondary 1 progression test, but I'm specifically want to look at the writing section. Prior to this, we've been looking at the reading section. And sometimes this is the section of the exam or the test that most students struggle with, because it takes a bit of planning, a bit of forethought before you can just start writing, and also because you've probably spent a bit of time on section A and you haven't planned well enough for timing in section B. So remember, when you get your progression test or your exam, look at the time that is allocated to you. It's usually 1 hour and 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is what they would expect for you to use on reading through the paper, 10 to 15 minutes. But try and keep it to 10 if you can. And then for your hour, you'll divide it into half an hour for each section. So if you find that you're coming up to the end of your half hour for section A, stop what you're doing and move on to section B. Okay. Let me see if there's anything going on in the chat that I need to know about. You're more than welcome to ask questions in the chat. Okay, good. Hi. Excellent. Everybody, people are joining. This is so nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to move the chat box to the side, and then we'll carry on with the session. All right, so just remember to say hi in the chat box. Right, so English paper 1, section B, writing. So this is the kind of question that you could expect to get in this section. It says, write an article for young children which gives information about an animal. Okay, so this is quite a nice topic. Most people know about some kind of animal, even if it's a cat or a dog, okay, that qualifies as an animal. You will need to choose an animal that you know about. Always try to write from a perspective of knowing. So if you know about cats, if you love cats, write about cats. If you know about lions, write about them, okay? Use headings to help make the information clear. Okay, it's all about clarity. That's why we use headings, because you're trying to help the reader understand the information you're giving. So some headings are suggested. Physical characteristics of the animal, what they eat, where they live, etc. Okay, it says do not include illustrations. So because it's an article, you might be tempted to put in illustrations. You don't have time for that. That is not what you're being tested on. You're being tested on your writing skills. Now, a very, very important part of writing, which is not to be underestimated, is the planning of writing. And I would suggest that you spend at least a good 5 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, doing your plan. Because once you have your plan, your writing will, the actual writing of the article will become easier as you go along, because you're just looking at key ideas. So don't skip doing a plan, but don't overload your plan so that you end up writing your essay in the plan. That's not what you've got to do here. This is all about key ideas, what you're going to explore in your article. You're not writing it, you're just putting out the key ideas. Another word for this is when you brainstorm, right? You're brainstorming all the things that come to you when you think about a topic. So, how are we going to plan our article? Well, first of all, articles must have a title, all right? That is the convention, the standard thing that is done for articles. They have a title of some kind. So you'd have to think about what title you want to put. And then we must make sure that we also include subheadings, okay? And that's what they meant by headings, so subheadings. That's the smaller headings you get that break up the text, the ones they have suggested, for example, physical characteristics, Okay, and what's the other one? What they eat, and then where they live. Okay, so let's move this down. All right, now those are just some suggested headings. You don't have to use the ones they give you. You can add other things as well. You can add another heading, another subheading of your own choice. Okay, so another way that you could approach this is, for example, if you didn't want to use the subheadings they've given you, they call them headings here, then you could say, well, what's another word for physical characteristics? Well, another word is appearance, right? So you could write appearance instead of physical characteristics. You don't have to, but you could. What they eat, that's diet. And where they live, that is habitat. All right. So you could have these as your 3 main headings, or use the ones they give you. Now, you'd have to think about an animal that you know about and that interests you so that you can say something about it. And at the same time, you have to keep in mind not just what you're going to be writing about, but who you are writing for. Who is your audience? Okay? And audience, and another thing that's very important is purpose. It's informative, right? So you must have come across some texts in the textbooks that we use for the course and for all the other subjects that you study, or just when generally browsing the internet or reading books or magazines actually, or newspapers, you must have come across things that inform you about something. Where do you learn about animals? You've learned about it from somewhere, and that means you have been given information. And so that's the kind of thing you'd have to do in your article. You want to give information. All right, so I have chosen an animal to look at, which is the whale shark. I find it to be quite an interesting animal because although it's a shark, it also has some very similar characteristics to a whale. It's not quite a whale, it's not quite a shark, it's a combination of both. And it's quite an interesting creature to write about, I think. So if I was going to do this, I would start thinking about the kinds of things that I could come up with when I'm brainstorming. So do I just want to call my magazine article The Whale Shark? Well, sounds a bit boring, the whale shark. I think try and spice it up a little bit. You could say something like the whale shark, and here we're showing that we know how to use punctuation, because I'm using a colon to indicate that I'm going to give more information. The whale shark, gentle giant of the sea. Okay. It is, well, we can call it the gentle giant of the sea, because although it's a shark, it doesn't prey on other animals. It's a filter feeder like whales, and it consumes plankton, etc. So that's why I've made it a little bit more interesting. I've shown which animal I'm going to write about, and then I've given it a type. I've just make it a bit more interesting for the reader. You want to entice your reader. You want to lure your reader in. Okay, so now that I've got my title dealt with, subheadings, I'll have to think about what I'm going to talk about. And for those of you who know about the whale shark, it is very large, okay? It's probably the size of a van or a bus even. It can be very large. It's got sort of black coloring with white spots, which makes it quite unique, okay? And remember, this is my plan, so I'm not writing things out in full. I'm just doing it in shorthand. Large black coloring, white spots. It's got quite a wide nose and mouth. Okay, and then although it is whale-like, it has the body of a shark. So you'll see that it has fins. You know, you get different kinds of fins. You get the dorsal fins on the side. You get the pectoral fin at the top, okay? Those are part of the appearance of the whale shark. So yes, it's whale-like, but it's more shark than whale, okay? So that's the kind of things that I know just off the top of my head about the whale shark. Diet, I know that they are not, they do not eat prey. They do not prey on other animals, but they are filter feeders, just like whales. They have certain filters that filter through the plankton in their mouth. So a filter feeder, and so therefore it eats plankton. Okay, what else do I know about them? Well, I know that they like warm water. So warmer oceans. And what do I know about warmer oceans? Well, I know that the Indian Ocean is a warmer ocean. And I know that the Pacific Ocean is also quite warm. So those two, you could say they're probably most likely to be found in warmer oceans. They're quite solitary, so you very rarely see whale sharks in big groups. They're usually on their own, and if there is more than one, it's probably a mother and a baby. Okay, so yeah, this is what I know just from brainstorming. Okay, so let me go over the question one more time, and this is what you should do. Go back to the question, make sure you're doing what is needed to be done when you're giving your answer. So write an article for young children. Remember, that means you also have to keep the language, must be clear, must keep it clear and understandable, okay, or simple, clear and simple. So nothing too complicated, all right? Let me just check the chat box here. I see a chat come through. Oh, good. Yes, please remember to say hi so that I have a record of your name. So language must be clear and simple because we're writing for children. It must be interesting. Okay, so do not bombard your audience with too many facts, or if there are facts, keep them quite interesting. And then which gives information. It must be informative, and because we've listed things the way we have, they'll be informative. And you obviously have to choose your animal. So this is our plan. And then you would go about coming down to where you're going to write your article. So remember, you must have, your title must go here at the top, all right? Don't write the word out, don't write the word title out, okay? I'm just showing you where the title goes. It goes here, and then you start here. You leave a line space and you carry on. You write your first opening paragraph. Now remember, with your opening paragraph, you want to give an overview to the animal that you're looking at. Whale sharks are gentle creatures of the sea. They are quite unique in their appearance. They're very different to other kinds of sharks, that kind of thing. So you keep it general. And then you go into the specifics where you've broken things down into the actual topics that you're going to explore, the headings that you're going to explore. So let's have a look. I have chosen, because I don't have time to write this all out, I've chosen an article that we can look at online. And just to give you a better idea of the kinds of things you could explore in an article that you were going to write. Okay, so let me see if I can just get that here on the screen. 1 second, here we go. Yes, okay, good. All right. Now, can I move this back up again? I think I can. Oh no, it didn't let me. Okay, sorry, just bear with me here. Try one more time. Can we move you up? No, okay. I can't get it any higher than that, I'm sorry. All right, so just gonna try one more time. Yes, good, okay. So fact about whale sharks. This is what this person decided to call their article. And if you really, really wanted to get technical, though there is no need to, you could say who it's by and which magazine you're writing for, just to be fancy. You won't be penalized for that, and maybe you'll impress your market, but you don't have to, as long as you have that main title. Okay? And then generally articles will have a picture. You don't have to have that, but look at this introduction to the idea of whale sharks. Whale sharks are the largest fish in the world. They are not whales, semicolon, because you're separating two related ideas. They are sharks. Okay, they are not whales, they are sharks. They have a lot in common with whales, though. For example, they are massive like whales, and they feed more like whales than a typical shark. So do you see how this opening is quite general? gives a nice overview, introduces the reader to the topic you're going to explore. It doesn't go into very specific details straight away. Now, because we're going to go into specifics, there will be detail. So let me move this up, and sorry about all this advertising that comes around this particular website. Just ignore it, please. Size and description. Now, you will not have these figures to hand, to mind. You won't remember that it's 40 feet long unless you've really just been studying it for a science project, that it weighs 20 tons, etc. No, but remember how I broke mine down into, I broke my topic down into ideas that I know about the whale shark. I know its appearance. I know that it's very big, that it can be the size of a large van or a bus. These are the kinds of things you could include here. So they've gone the very factual route because they've had a chance to research, but you won't have that as long as you have some sort of information you can put in there relating to the appearance of the animal. So whale sharks can grow up to 40 feet or 12 meters long, but on average they grow to 18 to 32.8 feet and weigh 20.6 tons. That's about the size of a school bus. Okay, fine, let's come down. Then this person goes off on a tangent about great white sharks. You won't be doing that. I mean, you can, I suppose, because most people when they think of shark, they think of great white sharks who are definitely predatory, who prey on other animals. But the whale shark is bigger than the great white shark. Whale sharks are not predatory. They do not prey on other animals. Whale sharks' heads are flattened and have a blunt snout above its mouth. Short barbels or whisker-like sensory organs, like catfish have, that look like whiskers, protrude from their nostrils. Delightful. Their backs and sides are gray to brown with white spots and pale stripes. Ooh, so it's actually brown and not black. It looks black to me in the pictures I've seen. Don't worry, you won't be marked down for something like that, okay? Their bellies are white. Each whale shark has its own unique pattern of spots. Oh wow, much like human fingerprints. A whale shark's mouth is about 5 feet wide. They have rows of over 300 teeth, but as filter feeders, they do not use these teeth to eat. And then, do you see how they've also broken down their article into with subheading size and description, habitat, habits. Let's look at habitats or where they live. Whale sharks tend to like warmer areas and are found in tropical waters all over the world. Some have been spotted in cooler waters, such as those off the coast of New York. Most whale sharks, 75%, are found in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, the warmer oceans. 25% in the Atlantic, which is a colder ocean, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. You won't have this kind of information at your fingertips. Use what you know. Okay? Use what you know and write about it in full and correct sentences. So that's habitat. Now, habits. Whale sharks are solitary creatures. They keep to themselves. They don't shy away from sharing feeding grounds with other whale sharks, though. The Red Sea is a popular area for juvenile, for young whale sharks to hang out together and eat. Now, what about this phrasing here, hang out together and eat? Would that be acceptable or not in a magazine article? And then when you answer this question, I want you to bear in mind who is the audience, okay? So I want you to give me some suggestions on the chat here, whether you think it is suitable in this magazine article to, you gave me some nice helpful hint there. Try press F11. Oh, okay, for next time when I have to enlarge the screen. Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you for the information. I appreciate that. Sorry, hang on. So do you think that it is suitable to use this phrase to hang out together and eat for a magazine article? Okay, sorry. Okay, Laura, good. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say the name in the session. Forgive me. Yes, good. You're right. Yes, you can use this kind of phrasing. Why can we? Okay, somebody else is saying you can't use this kind of phrasing. Okay, so there's a debate. It's an article, so you want to come across as informative, right? Yes, absolutely. So you would assume that you should try and remain formal. Yes, and in general, this article is quite formal. Things are written in full sentences. Words like juvenile, habitat are used. They're quite formal, a formal way of speaking. So yes, you're right on that side of things. But because our audience is for children, our audience is children, you can certainly use the odd phrase here and there that would appeal to children. Okay, so to hang out together and eat would appeal to children. You know, it's familiar language. So good, very nice. Okay, great answers, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so habits, yes. All right, so what else? Diet. These sharks don't attack and tear apart their prey like most or many of their relatives. While they are meat-loving carnivores, because you know they're eating all those small krill and little crustaceans and things like that, whale sharks are filter feeders, according to National Geographic, a very famous wildlife publisher. They open their mouths, let water come in, and their bodies filter out food and release the water and any debris back into the ocean. Plankton are their main food source, but they also eat shrimp, algae, and other marine plant material, sardines, so very small fish that probably just come in with the water when they're filtering the water, sardines, anchovies, mackerels, squid, tuna, and albacore. Okay, so they all get sucked in. They also eat fish eggs. Okay, this is interesting. According to the Nature Conservatory, whale sharks will wait as long as 14 hours for fish to spawn on reefs. Then they will swoop in and eat the eggs. So whatever you know about the diet, put it in. You won't have, like I say, you won't have all these facts at hand, but you'll know some of it. You'll remember some of it if you've been interested in a particular animal. And then, for example, they've also looked at offspring. So you know how I was talking about perhaps you want to add another subheading that they haven't suggested? Feel free to do that. Maybe you can come up with one or two more that they have not given you in their suggestion. All right, so let's go back to the progression test itself. I have put this link here in the lesson notes that if you want to go and have a look at that article for yourself, just to get a bit more of an idea of what the article should look like, then please click on the link, although I'll send it to you as a PDF. So I'll try and send the link separately, a live link, okay. Right, so planning is very crucial. You can't just go and start writing. Your writing will be too muddled. Get your thoughts down, rework things, cross things out, rephrase them if you need to, but only start writing properly once you come to this section. Give your introduction, and you don't put these as titles, okay? I'm just telling you this is where the introduction goes, and this is a general overview of the topic, okay? Overview of animal. So the main things that people would know about the animal, or that you know about the animal. Then obviously your subheadings. I'll call them headings because they called them headings in the instructions. So heading 1, and then you'd write a little bit here, you'd write, then you'd have a space. Next paragraph, heading 2, okay, and you carry on like that. All right, just gonna take that out. And so on until you came down to the conclusion. Now look, how much space have you been given? You've been given 2 pages to write on, which suggests that you really must go onto that second page. Don't just think that 1 page is going to cut it. It won't. You must try and do something on that second page, even if it's just an additional paragraph, and even better, filling up the entire thing. And remember, you must have a bit of a conclusion as well. All right, you don't just abruptly end on the diet of the whale shark. Come to some sort of conclusion, even if it's just referring back to your title. As we can see, the whale shark certainly is an interesting creature, and it deserves the title of the gentle giant of the sea. Okay, so just to tie up that introduction, what you've explored, and to tie it up nicely so that your reader gets a good impression of everything that you've written. Okay, so they stay interested and that you give a good impression. Now let's look at the marking scheme. I've got 3 minutes to go. Remember, keep purpose and audience in mind. It's very important, and that's why I say after you've made your initial plan and you brainstormed and you put all your ideas out there, go back to the question. Look for who is your audience. Look what is the purpose of your piece? It's to inform. So you have to inform. Okay? It's not to entertain. It's not to tell a random story about a whale shark that got stranded on a beach. Okay, no, it has to be informative. The text structure. Do you have a title to your article? Have you included headings? Have you got an introduction and a conclusion? It must all be there. Do your paragraphs flow nicely? We're going to look at this, then we're going to look at that, then we're looking at this, okay? Sentence structure. Have you written in full sentences? All right, and it goes into things that it wants here. Beginning to vary your sentence structure for effect, so you can have short sentences for emphasis. The whale shark. A gentle giant, exclamation mark. So short, sharp, then you can have more developed sentences. So this idea would come from expanding verb phrases. So a verb phrase is a phrase that contains a verb, okay? An action word, like diving. So you might have a sentence that contains a verb phrase. Whales like diving, full stop. Okay, they want to see that you can develop that idea. Whales, and here we're talking about whales, not whale sharks. Whales like diving in deep oceans so that they can find their favorite prey, giant squid, okay? So I've developed that verb phrase to make it more exciting. And then order of clauses or phrases, that just means make sure your sentence makes sense. Okay, start with an idea and complete the idea. All right, another thing they're going to be looking at is punctuation. Do you know how to use punctuation? Not just basic punctuation, colons, semicolons, exclamation marks, ellipses, these things that indicate an idea that's trailing off or something, an idea that has been put on pause, for example, okay? And then spelling. How do you improve spelling? Read, read, read. You must read widely. And the last idea that I want to leave you with, this final thought, is the only reason that I would be able to write this article properly is because I read. I read about things to do with the environment. I read about animals. I read fantasy. I read science fiction. I read magazines. I read newspapers. Read, read, read. If you read, you will be able to write. If you didn't know about an animal, anything to do with any animal, you would really struggle to write this article. Okay. So that is my advice to you today. Please read, read, read as much as you can. Okay, so I've got some questions on the last minute. What if you write more than 2 pages? Don't. Stick to the 2 pages that they've given you. They don't want to mark more than 2 pages. Are we also allowed to use colors for the subheadings? Don't bother. It won't give you any extra marks or anything. So just write in your black pen or blue pen that you're using for the exam. Keep things simple and straightforward. Nice questions. Thank you so much, guys. I hope to see you next time.